must admit that yesterday afternoon when I realized that it was a Carmelite feast, I kind of had a little bit of an anxiety attack, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say about a person I know nothing about? So I started looking him up and reading all sorts of hagiography associated with good old Andrew Corsini, and there's much to be said. And I thought, well, God certainly has a sense of humor, because when I was reading a little bit about him and his relationship, particularly with his mother, something else came to mind. Another saint and his own mother came to mind. But that's all I need to say. That perhaps Andrew had a particular devotion to one of the greatest saints in the church. Anyway, it doesn't need to really be said anymore. Stand for the creed. No. In addition to his relationship with his mother and her influence on his own acceptance of that spirit of the Lord that had been given to him, as we hear in Isaiah, Andrew himself, I think, today would be very upset that we're celebrating him. When you read about his life and the entitlement and wealth into which he was born, and after his particular conversion, he was somebody who probably wanted to get rid of all of that, all that was associated with his former life, and with all of his talents, being known as the father of the poor in the Tuscan region, again, which is an Augustinian region, so I'm sure he was very friendly with some of our own friars, who probably influenced him in many ways. And I'll stop. But also in his great gifts for reconciliation, bringing together various types of people, the noble families, the common families, all of his gifts for being known as a preacher. This gospel is all about him. That he understood this gospel to its core. That no matter what, he was a brother to Christ first. That all that else that came with it was just the grace upon grace that comes with relationship with Christ. A very mendicant gospel. That first and foremost, we are brothers and sisters to each other. A lot of times in community, we have this sense of our own inadequacy and insecurity that we forget this fundamental call that we have, particularly as mendicants, to really be equals to each other. And so we could easily start to look for that which distinguishes us from one another. Perhaps that which might give one up. The various gifts that each of us may be given, the various degrees that we may pursue, the various talents or reputations we may have among the people whom we minister. All of that is nothing compared to that fundamental call of being brothers and sisters to each other first, and reminding people with whom and to whom we serve of that same call that they have been given. That really is the glad tiding of this feast. That is what the Spirit has given us today through the example of Andrew Corsini. A title that is often overlooked. But yet, when you think about it, it's the only title we use here in this space. That whatever else that may be given us, brother and sister, is the only title used here. So it should be the only title we use in all of the spaces of our lives.